Day, my name is Hazel Jojo, a young leader from Zimbabwe who is passionate about education, gender, and young people's meaningful participation in key decision making. Today, we celebrate the International Day of Education under the theme Changing Course, Transforming Education. As I was reflecting on this year's theme, I felt compelled to look at the education status in my country and also in my region, because access to education is still a cause of concern. You see, education is not just a right enshrined in the Section 75 of our Constitution. It is one of the international goals that forms the top 5 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. However, if we look at the school-going age of around 3 to 18, population is about 37.3% out of an estimated of around 1,050 students. So you can see with the statistics that we still have a lot to do when we talk about a transformed education. So what then can we do to transform our education, especially in my country? Number one, we need to strengthen the enforcement of the enrollment of children because the percentage is still low, especially during the global pandemic where the accessibility, affordability, and availability of education is worrisome. We also need to increase the capacity of teachers. As you can see that there's a lot that is changing within our education system. We have the digitalization of education, the introduction of virtual learning. We have got a lot to talk about. But if our teachers are not capacitated, incentivized, and motivated, then the dream of having a transformed education remains a fallacy that can never be achieved. We also talk about the gender imbalances that are still happening within the education system. A greater population of girls who also live in rural areas do not have access to education. And this is still a cause of concern because most of them are still left behind when we talk about education. Then at a secondary level, we have a greater proportion of females generally decreasing. And this shows the gender disparities that are happening within the education system. Therefore, we need to brace up and continue talking about a transformed education system. There is also need to talk about adequate funding for basic educational assistance program. Especially in my country, we have what we call the BEAM. It's a design program specifically to offer financial assistance to students to continue with their education. If we invest a lot in our basic education, we have invested more in the future of jobs and having a sustainable development generation. So we also need to take measures around dealing with the challenge of school dropouts. Children are dropping out of school due to many factors. We talk about economic factors, social factors, teenage pregnancy, and early child marriages. I usually consider those as shadow pandemics. At some point in my country, we had 5,000 cases of teenage pregnancies, and around 1,800 of those had to drop out of school due to early child marriages. And I'm happy that my country, my government specifically, amended their Education Act, and it's provided that children are not going to be expelled on the basis of pregnancy. To me, that's a positive step to ensure that we have quality and inclusive education for all, though we still need to look around other provisions for that act. So, as I stand here, I believe that it is now time to invest in initiatives that envisions a world where African girls and young women have to complete their education, build a secure, healthy, and AIDS-free future. We need a robust education system that not only does it train students to be good employees, but also make sure that they are innovative, they are agents of change, and they have the capacity to take charge of their destinies. It is time we strengthen the civil society organization at this particular time and not to fight them, because we need to speak with one voice, especially around inclusive education in rural areas. We cannot talk about inclusive education without rebranding and re-identifying our relationship with nature, technology, and different intersects. We cannot talk about changing the educational discourse without putting into mind inclusion, equity, and democratic participation. Let us transform our education as we commemorate this day. Happy International Day of Education to you all. Thank you.